yesterday. Sometimes this program goes to a default and I have to change the settings. Okay, here we are. It looks like we're on. I have to change the settings. Okay, looks good. Sounds good. I can see everybody's comment. Thank you so much. So today is 1,483 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. Code red. If you're in the Navy, you understand what that means. Code red. And then a cover-up, a huge cover-up. And why would that happen? Because Richard was a whistleblower and he was reporting criminal trafficking, serious, that absolutely crossed the border, the criminal trafficking. And a lot of things are going on in Mexico right now, in Chihuahua, in Mexico City. Of course, everything is going on in El Paso. And it is really important that people understand that this is a national story. And so we have a contact, a female, prime time, that's absolutely interested in this story. And I think that is really important because for a long time, the media has been burying this story or not even reporting on this story. Or when it does get reported, it is meant to be a psyop, to be misinformation, to be misdirection. And it is a national story because the facts in the case are getting out there. I haven't had time to put up the breaking news that, we have corroboration that the officials, absolutely, this would be the FBI, identified Richard's remains. That would be with DNA, with dental. And so it's, he was brutally murdered. A whistleblower who is supposed to have security. And he was under 24-hour security by law, but they were quote unquote complacent. And his security detail did not even show up the day that he was murdered. And he was forcibly removed from his barracks and murdered, and a cover-up ensued. And it was brutal because even Captain Yoshida, who came on later after Captain Park, who is implicated in all of this, was crying when my husband called him, and I don't think they ever thought that, hi Danielle, thank you for coming on. Absolutely. And that this crosses the border, that this started before the Walmart mass shooting. The Walmart mass shootings date, I say it over and over again because it was August 3rd, 2019. And Richard's case began before that. And the evidence is mounting that one of the reasons for the Walmart mass shooting to be organized, and absolutely it was organized, and there were multiple shooters. There's no doubt when and it's not me. It's not me. Just take time to read through the articles, to go through, and I put up a couple articles that are being buried, and with videos that are being buried and videos of witnesses, and then also the main key witness of Glendon Oakley Jr. For that August 3rd, 2019. And just you piece together the map, you piece together the timing, because they have all of the timing. And of course, we didn't get that from a jury, from a hearing, because they haven't set a court date yet, 5 years later. And this is supposed to be very, very serious, and yet, and it's the only thing that Bill Hicks, the law offices of Bill Hicks, can think about right now and talk about. That's all he talks about. Um, really, mainly, that's all. Um, and, you know, why? Why no court case, no simple orders for that case, like having a mental health examination, right? Um, so it's very, very telling. And what it tells you is that it was orchestrated, that this is a cover up. But in regards to Richard's case, the evidence is mounting because of the connections, because of, they call them conflicts of interest, right? The conflicts of interest that absolutely pull Richard into his case, into the Walmart mass shooting. And how does it pull it in there? That this was a misdirection. This was to take the focus off of the very serious reports that Richard was filing as a whistleblower with multiple agencies, and redirect the narrative, redirect the investigators, redirect law enforcement to something else. That is part of the reasons, what we believe, with the mounting evidence that we have, why they orchestrated the Walmart mass shooting. And there's a lot more to it, and it takes the citizen investigators, and you see that going on with the assassination attempt on President Trump. You're not getting our taxpayer money's worth in investigation, are we? They're just trying to bury that whole situation, that whole assassination attempt, and so is the media. They're just trying to let it fade away, and it's taking citizen investigations and the citizens to be curious about this crime that happened to a politician. And I don't think Americans understand how many politicians in other countries are being murdered, are being absolutely murdered. It's brutal. And so if we want to have, a country that has um, very brave and courageous and qualified individuals running for different positions, we have to have a society that will not tolerate physical attacks on our um, on our election candidates. So this is citizen investigation is going on with that, and citizen investigation went on with the Walmart mass shooting, and what they have done. If just, I mean, there was so much of it. When you read through it, you absolutely know that something else is going on. And then when you know Richard's case as well as we do, by sitting in these meetings with these generals, and also hearing from Director of Emergency Services and Director of Homeland Security and 15 plus agencies and FBI, and then having witnesses like FBI agent Nadal Baim and Department of State, and um, it just is more and more and more with the witnesses in the unit, um, how did we find out that Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader? It was citizen investigation and then um, corroborating that information. And, now you have Jules Tuganon Chan um, admitting, he is confirming that he was firsthand, the response team firsthand to the Walmart mass shooting. Okay. So we know that it was orchestrated. We know that, there was something very stinky and smelling about that mass shooting. We know we have corroborated or witness testimony that hundreds of thousands of dollars were sent to that Walmart to have extra security because there were warnings that something would happen. Now that is just wowzer. And yet the money was not spent on any kind of extra security. Even with the school time coming up, even with all of the people in Walmart coming in, getting ready for, making all their purchases for the beginning of school and everything, it was very, very busy time. They did not have one security guard, not one, on that day, even though hundreds of thousands of dollars were sent to that Walmart to have security there. So this was a breach in security. And, for Jules Tuganon Chan to say he had firsthand experience at Walmart as, part of the original response team. And then his involvement with FitFam El Paso, he should have been putting out that information, right? He should know what is going on at the Walmart mass shooting that was so stinky. Because if we can find out, sure, that he could with his secret clearance, and he even admitted that he would, he would have insider into the El Paso city, because he worked for that. And, he is, he's under investigation. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. And, because he also was directly part of the whole emergency intake center where we know 85,000 missing children, right? And so I wouldn't even put that on my CV if I was him, but he does. And his connection with our son's case is very serious, because before we even knew who he was, right? Before we even knew who FitFam El Paso was, there was Jules Tuganon Chan with the Hart family. Okay? He is directly connected to the Hart family before we even knew who he was. And when he got bolder, and because he has an agreement through FitFam with Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, who is also discredited and up to no good and disgraceful. And also with KTSM David Candelera. So this is, he has an agreement. And that means, because we've connected the dots with David Candelara, with the Candelara family of KTSM, with Jonathan and Brees, and with Danae Katzen. Danae Katzen was very, very comfortable at KTSM. And, I know that Natasia Paloma could tell us all about it, right? And she's absolutely implicated in this aiding abetting of criminals. That's where it's at right now, is that these people are aiding and abetting the prime suspects in the murder of Richard, who was reporting criminal trafficking that is connected to the Walmart mass shooting to redirect the audits and the criminal trafficking. It really makes you understand why they hate Trump so much, and the media hates Trump so much. And I am not a hard, fast Republican, right? Um, I've never been a hard, fast Republican. I've never voted Republican all the way down the list, unless you're in the situation where you're in right now. Um, but I will tell you this. Um, it really makes you understand why they hate President Trump so much, because he was the president at the time, and we have confirmation they were absolutely under audit. They were absolutely being investigated. We know that El Paso Community Foundation, through the office of the district attorney under Yvonne Rosales, was being investigated. I mean, 2 days after the investigation started, they petitioned to remove Yvonne Rosales. We know that. And so this is all about politics. And at the beginning, when, we were not being told what was going on and we were being misled, they would say, when I would talk about politics, they would say, well, what does politics has to do with you finding your son and everything? Absolutely. It has everything to do with finding Richard. Richard is a national story. So we were told today, which we're very grateful for, because we've been told in the past that, why bother? And we're like, well, he's our son. We're going to bother. He's our son. Where is he? He's a whistleblower that was not protected, that should have been protected. He's a soldier that should have been protected. He was asking for a transfer. He was asking multiple times for a transfer. He called 911. He even purchased a pistol. He was afraid for his life. And we have a video where he was afraid for his life. And they did nothing to protect him. And when we received, now we've had word that Richard was part of the CID internship, that he was taking classes at Park University. We know from Richard that he was taking classes. So, why is Park University not giving us Richard's academic records? We are now legally right. It's right and good for them to give us our son's academic records. And we put in that request very quickly after the declaration of death. There's so many elements in this. And I don't know if I wanted to talk about this tonight, but it really goes to knowing who the prime suspects are. And the prime suspect, of course, is CID agent Tavita Nusa, Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart, and Dallas Hart's mother, confirmed convicted criminal Leilani Hart. And so, those records are very important, those academic records, in showing the connection with Richard beforehand with the CID. They absolutely knew the CID and the response team, because we underwent years, really, I shouldn't say months, it was years of retaliation from this Bob Moore's group. I call it Bob Moore's group, because Bob Moore was in that group. And you're like, what? What is the media doing in the group with Jules Tuganon Chan, with James Hart, with Leilani Hart, with Amber Chase, with Dallas Hart, with Nick Brown Bell Nuff Ziegler, with Orona, with Corinne Adeline West, with Kelly Gain, with you know Chris Martin, with you just go down the list, and it's very obvious that there is a huge cover up going on, because there was illegal activity going on within our military and elsewhere and outwards, right? And we know that FitFam El Paso is involved, because Jules Tuganon Chan, and this is before we even acquired FitFam. We acquired FitFam in May of 2024. Okay, so just a few months ago. And, we knew that they were targeting Richard. We wanted to discuss with them about their targeting with Richard, and they ignored us. We wanted them, we even offered to pay to have our story put up on FitFam, and they're all about taking the money, right? They're taking money right now. They're taking Cash App right now. And but we were ignored. We were ignored. Our son was brutally murdered. And the person in charge of FitFam wanted to stay anonymous. Wanted to stay Mr. X, but yet wanted to participate in the aiding and abetting, and maybe more, of the prime suspects in the murder of a soldier, of a whistleblower soldier. And this person has secret clearance. Jules Tuganon Chan has secret clearance. And what is his job? Health and security officer. And he's under investigation. That's what he is. He's under investigation, because this group that he was in, before we even knew who he was participating in the impersonation, the harassment, the threats, the misinformation, the misdirection of Richard's case, the intimidation of witnesses. I mean, this is what this group was doing. And, we even have documented evidence that the Hart family was misusing soldiers' information for personal gain. Now, you can say, really, what's that? Did they have the credit cards or whatever? But when you know that James Hart works in the VA, with access to all the soldiers' personal information, including their social security numbers and their health and everything. That's really concerning. Really concerning. And who is he giving 100% disability to? So we've got a list going on that one too. Um, and yeah, the latest is, he could make or break any soldier. Okay. Um, the absolute connection between Jules Tuganon Chan and the Hart family and Bob Moore, right? And Bob Moore. And now with Bill Hicks in the picture. And we know the connection between Bill Hicks and Ernest Christopher Grant. And then, of course, I don't want to leave out Jonathan Ambrose and KTSM, the Candelaras, right? Um, it all points to a huge criminal network that were hell-bent on silencing Richard. Not just before the Walmart case and I think before the Walmart case, absolutely. And when you look at how they reported on the Walmart case and how some journalists are still reporting using a unreliable source like Ernest Christopher Grant and not telling his conflicts of interest, right? I mean, Richard must have been reporting such serious criminal trafficking that for just a little exposure, they will commit major crimes. Major crimes. For the amount of fear in this criminal network, this rogue criminal group from some of them, not all of them, are from the original response team, but a lot of them, and aiding and abetting the Hart family, who could make and break a soldier. I mean, and then connected to Nadal Baim, connected to Bradford Bugado, Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, connected to Western Frontier Trading LLC, right? Nadal Baim was connected to Western Trading LLC and others and more and more. Trying to bid or bidding, not trying to, but bidding for up to $3 million in ammunition. And the CID is saying, he's just some guy. We don't know who he is. The FBI is like, oh, we don't know who he is. He's just some guy. Look, he's one of the guys providing bullets to you. Don't, come on. El Paso's not that big. El Paso's not that big. And the connections are all coming together, and we've been reporting them, very busy reporting them behind the scenes, documenting. If anything happens to us, and God forbid, we have done our best documenting, because we really believe, that in service, we believe in service that our lives, are blessed by serving, not who can serve us. You know, and we had our neighbors corroborate this in Ireland, but we would tell our children, go, work, see how you can be of help. See how you could be of help. Don't, think, oh, how can they help me? You need to go and see how you can be of help. And, it brings so many blessings. And, as they grew up, it brought us, it has even now brought us a lot of peace because, and I'm not saying our children are perfect or anything like that. I'm just saying that they're content. Because if you're always looking for who's going to serve you, you're never content. But if you're looking to make the world a better place and to serve God and how can you be of help and all those good things that America was built on, that when you're a Girl Scout leader, a Brownie leader like I was, Daisy leader, when you're in different church Bible studies, when you're in, like my dad was in Lions Club, it's all about how can you be of help? And there's a real joy in that. Where are the candy stripers that we used to have in the hospitals? They were joyful. They were glad to be there. We have a country of volunteerism, right? We were built on volunteerism, and it's been slowly diminishing. And people don't understand what a blessing that was because in the world, and this was written in Alex de Tocqueville's book, Democracy in America, I believe, where he is saying there's no other country like it. No other country has volunteerism. How can you be of help? No other country. And he's right. If you've traveled around the world, there's no other country that has a culture of volunteerism. And it really defines America. So when Richard went, my point is, when Richard went into the military, he went in aspiring. And yes, he wanted to get an education. He wanted to have, earn some money and have the independence, right? Absolutely. He wanted that. That was some of the excuses he had because we were trying to bribe him not to go into the army. He wanted to be an investigator, criminal investigator. We're like, you could do that. We'll pay for your schooling for that. Do not join the military. But he wanted the independence. And he had two more than that, a family of patriots. Go Army. Love their military service. And he wanted that. And so he went in the military to serve. And we have witness after witness. Richard was a distinguished honor graduate for basic training. He was a distinguished honor graduate for AIT. And that's not me bragging. That was me year in and year out saying that Richard was willing to give his all. He was willing to serve. He was, you know, they've tried to put this false narrative out there that Richard was a problem young man. He wasn't a problem young man. Anybody in the military, in leadership, would want him on their team. You have Jay Pollan saying that at the very beginning, before they decided to go with the fake narrative. He put it in writing. If you asked Halliday to do anything, he would go and do it, and he would go and do it well. And he was the fastest runner in his unit. What does that mean? It means that he didn't do a lackadaisy run. He was giving his all. He was trying to help. He was trying to make it better, his unit better. And so when he saw the criminal trafficking, that was very bad. He said it was very bad. He was trying to make it better. You can't have a strong country and a strong military with criminal trafficking in your unit, on your military base. And we have, and I consider them cowards. I consider Marlon Soto dirty, but a coward. And I consider General Eisenhower a coward, compromised. Sean Bernabe, a compromised coward. And DES Thomas Kane, total coward. A fraction of a man. And he's going to have to stand in front of God and say that, because he absolutely corroborated that Richard had been murdered. That he was a good meal for the coyotes. And the witness statements we're getting is that part of him is with the FBI and part of him is still out there. Now that, these are cowards that come to our door and try to fake it without giving us the report that they have. That we have to be citizen journalists, right? That we have to be the citizen journalists to get that information from the witnesses, to get that information from the addresses, from the LLCs, from the absolute family connection. There's so much nepotism here. You would not even believe it. There's so much nepotism. So much nepotism. But you know what that means? That means that these people got their jobs because of who they're related to, not because they're qualified. And that is the problem with the chief medical examiner. He's not qualified. He is illegal. And that's the problem with Bill Hicks. He's a usurper. And there's something that that we've learned through this all is a really dirty trick that these officials play. And that has to do with the statement of officer and the oath of office. The statement of officer in the state of Texas is the anti-bribery law. Okay, the anti-bribery statement. And it is required that you sign that anti-bribery statement before you take the oath of office, because you are telling the world, you're telling your constituents, you're telling the law enforcement community, you're telling everybody that you have not been bribed. That you have not been bribed and helped in a bribery to get that position. And what Bill Hicks did is very telling. And we found out that it is not something new, that this is a dirty trick they like to play, that they will take their oath of office without signing the statement of officer, because they can't legally, if people do their research and do their open office and they discover that an official was bribed and they signed that statement of officer before their oath of office, they are implicated. It's a huge crime. It's a huge crime. We need to look it up. What is the crime of signing the statement of officer, the anti-bribery statement, and then citizen investigators discovering that you got that position on a bribe, on a quid pro quo? What is the penalty? I would like to know that. I don't know that. So what they do, this is the little dirty trick, is that they will go ahead and take the oath of office without the statement of officer. And this is what happened in Bill Hicks's case. The judge involved, who, she's in big trouble. When this all breaks, and see, they're thinking it's never going to break, that they're never going to get caught, that no one will ever do anything, that they're covered. But the judge swore Bill Hicks in office, and she absolutely knew that he had to sign that statement of officer before she could swear him in. And yet she swore him in anyway. That was the usurpation. That was the usurpation. And then he was supposed to, after that, sign the statement of officer. And why do they do it after? Because if you sign it after, it's null and void. The whole thing is null and void anyway, because it's a usurpation. So that can't be used in a court of law, as I understand it. If they did it right, he could be held accountable. But because he did it in reverse, they don't care about the statement of officer, even though it is a violation of the Texas Constitution. So what they're really doing is thumbing their nose at the Texas Constitution. And this is done, what we have heard, they know this dirty trick. And so El Paso has a broken criminal justice system on purpose. It's orchestrated that way. And if someone starts asking questions, well, we have the recording of, hey, let's go to the Secretary of State to scheme to get this guy that caught the ear of a reporter and some attorneys. And it's amazing that the attorney gave him the ear. That means there's some ethics in that journalist, right? because Bill Hicks is absolutely illegally holding his office. And, I think there should be a review of all of these officials. Did they sign the statement of officer before they took their oath of office? If not, then they need to, be investigated for bribery. So, because our open records is revealing, we're getting these revelations in our open records, that is showing that this is there's no coincidence here. There's no, oh, sorry, it just happened. Oh, sorry, I overlooked it. No. And this protection and this aiding and abetting, is it aiding and abetting? I don't know if it would be aiding and abetting Ernest Christopher Grant. But with the connection between Bill Hicks and Ernest Christopher Grant, and there is, um, and what he did in that Walmart, and him being a criminal, and him having a warrant, and him being connected to this group, this Bob Moore's group, aiding and abetting the prime suspects in Richard's case, who are Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart, his mother, confirmed convicted criminal Leilani Hart, and her family member who she was giving sexual favors to, CID agent Tavita Nusa. So it's all sounds complicated, and they depend on that it's like this criminal web. That's why they make it. It's a criminal web, a network, a criminal network, and and they depend on it being confusing and taking a long time to draw it all out and make all the connections. But it is getting very, very clear, and all the evidence has mounted up. And the important information is that these people are connected. They targeted Richard. Richard must have been really reporting some doozers when it comes to criminal trafficking that was so bad, that they've spent a lot of time, a lot of manpower to cover this up. And that Richard's case is absolutely connected to the Walmart case. And of course, Ernest Christopher Grant is connected to the Walmart case, and he's connected to Richard's case. And that's why he's ghosting. He's like, when you see his involvement in things, and the connection with Bill Hicks and Jonathan Ambrose, and the Walmart case and all of that, FitFam El Paso, when you see all the connections, and it's very easy, you just have to know the history of Ernest Christopher Grant. And gosh, if I had the power, I would demand that there was transparency with Ernest Christopher Grant. And that's why they are really delaying this court case because he is a key figure in the Walmart case and they have to be transparent about him. And when you're transparent about him, it's very easy to see all the connections. And it's taken a long time to go through back doors. And I'm not saying illegal or anything, just, citizen investigation. The crumbs that they've left after ghosting him and sanitizing him. And, it's, with Jules, it was easier because we were expecting it. And so we we saved everything. And sure enough, as soon as uh, he found out that we knew who he was, he started deleting everything. And it might not just be him; it might be the whole criminal network. But they've been sanitizing him, and they've been sanitizing Jonathan Ambrose too, because he was 143. He was 143, absolutely connected to KTSM, absolutely connected to FitFam, absolutely connected to Bill Hicks, which begs to ask, was he connected to Ernest Christopher Grant? They're a criminal network. And for us to think about this, you look at FitFam El Paso and you're begging for help and they don't want to help. And it's like, wait a minute. I don't understand this because if a family of a murdered soldier asked for help, I would give them help. I would not ignore them. I would answer their question. I would respectfully do it. I would give them help. And the response back to us was silence or retaliation or harassment or threats and right? The harassment, the threats, the impersonation, the lack of help. And you have to understand, Jules Tuganon Chan has a security clearance, a military security clearance, because he's a captain in the reserves. So he's connected to, and he was active duty. And his brother, active duty. And his father, I think his father was a command sergeant major, right? A big NCO. And he doesn't want to help. And he's targeting. That smells of criminal activity, right? That smells of criminal activity. And, one of the big things too for me, and you can go look at it, but, the heroes of the Walmart were, I think, about 5 of them, I believe. And they were invited to the White House to receive an award. And Ernest Christopher Grant took his mother. And he was arrested by the Secret Service. Now, it is published out there, the picture of Ernest Christopher Grant's mother and Donald Trump and her receiving the award. Now, there's pictures out there of the other heroes, so-called heroes, right? And they look all scared. They're not that happy. And it's not because it's President Trump or the White House or anything like that. Something is really wrong in their eyes. Now, maybe that's just me, right? It's kind of like analyzing Patrick Crucius. And when you're a citizen investigator, especially in your son's murder, you do that. You look at body language, you look at handwriting, you look at their eyes and their contortions in their face and everything like that when they speak and everything. And what really got me is the picture of Ernest Christopher Grant's mother. She is just totally relaxed and happy. Her son was just arrested by Secret Service because he had a warrant out for his arrest. And she just looked totally relaxed. Now that raises red flags for me. I don't know if it does for you, but it did for me. And there's all kinds of circumstantial evidence or irregularities, and then there's mountains of hard evidence. And the hard evidence is that he had a warrant out for his arrest, that he is a criminal, and that he was lying about what happened in that Walmart. And we have a national reporter still using him as a reliable source, spewing the garbage that Ernest Christopher Grant was spewing with every aid from the media. He was the media darling, and now they're ghosting him. But they're still using him, but they're ghosting him. That smells of dirty politics to me, of election fraud, of election tampering, of orchestrated murder. It is so stinky. And then to have him connected to the very people that hurt Richard, and to see that Jules, with all the blessings that the American people have given him, the secret clearance, the cushy jobs, to see him engaged in this criminality and not wanting to give back, not wanting to serve, but just to be self-serving. Because right now, FitFam El Paso, who we acquired FitFam El Paso LLC, and we registered legally FitFam El Paso and the real FitFam El Paso brand names, right? The assumed names. And yet he is still operating, taking money from political candidates. And he is not disclosing that he is operating illegally, that he's under investigation. That he is connected to the prime suspects in the murder of whistleblower soldier Richard Halliday. Now, I think every one of those candidates, a matter of fact, I think that's what we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to write every one of those candidates that we can find information for. And I see Danielle's writing. Let me read what you're writing. And let them know. I think there needs to be transparency in this, and there needs to be disclosure. As for the 911 CAD reports, dispatch, call log, and recording from Richard 911 calls. Good idea. Thank you so much for that. Matter of fact, I'll ask my husband if he already asked for that, because you have to remember, Rob has written I think it's hundreds of letters. Hundreds. Open records every day. Every day. CAD reports, any reports with Richard's name in it. Yes, we need to ask that. I'm going to ask him. I wrote that note down. Thank you so much, Danielle. If Richard was reporting child trafficking, and well, we have several requests in to the Child Protective Services, and they just ignore us. We have open records into them. So what does that tell you? But we have it confirmed through witness testimony that Richard was making multiple reports to Child Protective Services. And yeah, I'm telling you, Richard must have been, and also that he turned in evidence, recorded evidence of it. And I believe it was of Boleyn. I believe she was the child. I think she was the minor. There might have been more minors. I don't know. And, it's heartbreaking. If Richard would, right. Also, yes, because this whole Park University, our questions are with Ann Ogle and with Thomas Kane, who both worked for Park University, and that they had an internship for the CID. And we had gotten information that Richard was part of the internship for the CID. And that's how he also was connected in order to see what was going on, that he was whistleblowing. But you have to remember that Lonnie Hart on the 22nd of July submitted her CID confession about incest and child sexual assault and child pornography, which is a big one in all of this because we have other documents that corroborate that Dallas Hart was, searching for his child pornography, right? And we have other documents that absolutely corroborate that the Hart family, for a long time, was engaged in incest and child sexual assault. So, and illegal weapons purchasing. So if they're going to do that, how are they going to act in their offices, entrusted with soldiers' personal information and identification? These people are not being vetted. And they're not, the oversight is not there. Because we have reports, so many reports of their criminal activity, their criminal sexual activity, their multiple criminal sexual partners. And they're criminal because you cannot fraternize like that. But I guess, they just want to look the other way. They don't want to have any kind of law unless the law can be used as a weaponization against whoever wants to stop them from their thievery and their sexual cult activities. And they are thieves above all else. They are thieves. The ACLU, I believe, are still in charge of the investigation regarding children unaccounted for in El Paso Intake Center on base. Richard Halliday and family deserve a congressional hearing. Absolutely. This is national news, and, we have a contact um, with a prime time national news female. I can give you that much. Because, if I give any other information, then they will be bullied, they will be harassed. I mean, that's happened to us over and over again in this um, whole thing, because whatever Richard was reporting, and we know it was bad, and we know it was criminal trafficking, um, you know, there is definitely a lot of interest in hiding it, in hiding it. Or her sister was the minor. She had a younger sister. See if Poland will cover his story, or Ireland. Absolutely. And Ireland has covered his story. Um, so yeah, and I think it's very important when you're talking about FitFam and KTSM, which is NBC. I believe it's NBC, right? And then El Paso Matters with the backing of El Paso Community Foundation. This is really, huge stuff. And FitFam El Paso is nothing to, I mean, I think it's like 450,000. I mean, they influence El Paso. And not only El Paso, but Juarez. And, and us acquiring it. I mean, that's what that does, is tell you that they were operating, Jules Tuganon Chan and his brother X, being anonymous and getting all the benefits for being military and being contract working in the El Paso city, right? Government. He was working there, and with having the security clearance, all of these things. And here he is, not wanting to pay taxes. Is that what it is? Or not wanting to be exposed? Why does he want to be anonymous, and why does he want to default his LLC? I mean, try acquiring Google. Try acquiring, any of these LLCs that are making good money, and don't tell me that FitFam doesn't make good money. And they're not going to protect their LLC. They're going to operate illegally for years, because it was forfeited in March of 2021. And here we come in May, and we're like, who is this guy? This is before we even knew that he was connected to the Hart family and targeting our son's case with the Hart family, aiding and abetting the Hart family, the prime suspects in the murder of our son. Before we even knew that, we're just like, who's FitFam? Geez, you got over 400,000 followers, and you're letting your LLC just default, the forfeit? Who is this? And so we acquired it, because I don't think people would believe us if we didn't. And our goal, our intention has always been to get our son's remains, to correct the record on Richard officially, and to hold those that murdered Richard accountable. And that is the right thing. And I think any parent wants that if they find themselves in a situation that we are in. And we have met the best for El Paso, for Juarez, because let me tell you, El Paso falls, I think the nation will fall. That that El Paso, it's so special. It's a special, special city. It's right there, right there. And it's an ancient city for a reason. And if they let it go lawless, maybe I'm over exaggerating just a little bit, but I don't think so. I think it's that important. And Richard was trying to serve, selflessly serve. So, Embassy, I believe, is the company that redacted the article, them finding Richard's remains. I can't remember which company. Are you talking about the declaration of death? Yeah. It's going to take citizen journalists in this and a resolve to get to the bottom of this for the sake of, can you still hear me? I hope so. For the sake of El Paso, our military, the Texas Constitution, right? They can't just walk all over the Texas Constitution. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you for all your help. Keep sending us this information. We are working diligently behind the scenes all the time. And yes, we will absolutely. Was head of emergency intake himself into Richard's case and was head of the emergency intake. Well, I don't know if he was head of I think the admirals were the head of the emergency intake center, but I know that Jules Tuganon Chan played a leadership role, right? He played an important role on the health and security of the miners. And, it doesn't seem like there was a good job done. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't put it on my CV. That's not a good job. 85,000 missing, unaccounted for minors. So, thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you, and please share. Bye bye.